I would like to follow on from Tony, and just to say I'm also a person who attended this college here itself in Bolton many years ago, and I was later on the governing body of the DIT in the about from 91 to 98, and were very interesting times because it was it was just mooted about the change in the Grange Gorman site and all of the things that were happening with the DIT and becoming an institute in itself that could award its own degrees and moving on from that. Then there was a report done by a professor from Amsterdam looking at the DIT and the 6 constituent colleges, and it came out in glowing terms of the DIT as compared to other third-level institutions. And that report mainly looked at how the relationship between, say, the DIT and industry in general, because it had everything from basic apprenticeships right up to now has PhD level. And it was interesting that he said that the links with industry were very, very strong compared to other third-level institutes because it had the connections with almost every trade in the country. You had the School of Bakery in Kevin Street, you had the Cahill Brewer Street, catering, hotel management, all of those courses. You had the engineering here, well, electrical engineering in Kevin Street, College of Music. It was very extensive, the whole range of DIT. And then when the Bolton Trust started, as Karine has said, and was encouraging innovation in the jobs area. And again, following on from what Tony was saying, the jobs, the whole job situation, and why we talk in the Green Foundation about sustainable jobs, we have to look at being less dependent on foreign direct investment. And as you know, I mean, it is sad in a way to hear people coming on the radio from different towns around Ireland said, oh, what we need is a foreign factory to set up here, you know? I mean, it is, whereas the idea of sustainability and a certain amount of self-reliance is gone out of the psyche, and people don't consider, look, we can do some of the things for ourselves. So what we're looking at in this project in SERIND, they call it now, SERIND stands for Socio-Ecological Reindustrialization. Now that term, it's a bit of a mouthful, but it came up with by an Austrian professor, and so it's a European-funded project in 7 countries, as stated earlier. But the interesting thing about it, it's looking at relocalizing work. How can we relocalize work? And up to now, it's been difficult. You know, there has been dependence on capital-intensive industry, and as Tony said, there's the 3 areas of industry that the likes of SIPTO and the unions are looking at protecting jobs, trying to innovate as well, and protecting jobs in existing industry. But we also have to look at what new industries are coming about and what technology is coming down the line. Now, we all know the technologies that have come down the line as regards information technology with computers, the internet. I mean, there has been a revolution in information technology. But what we're going to be looking at now and the rest of the day is another revolution, a revolution in manufacturing. And Dr. Roland Stelzer from Vienna will be talking later about that in more detail than I would. But the technology is now enabling things to happen and be manufactured at a local level. And this hasn't happened before to the same extent. There was, what Karine talked about was the Farmhouse Cheese Company was a fantastic initiative at the time because farmers were not making their own cheese. And I remember Karine saying to me there was something like, was it four cheese makers in the beginning, and now there's 60, is it 60? It's well over 60. So, I mean, that was a revolution at local level in a way. But the same thing is now possible in manufacturing, and it is very, very powerful. And I just outlined, the first slide there is about 3D printers, and some of you may have heard of these. That there are some of them here in this college, and we hope if people want to later on, we can have a look at the rapid prototyping workshop that's here in Bolton Street College itself. And there's quite a lot of work being done in that where people can develop prototypes at a very cheap cost. Now, these printers are capable of they started off using plastic filament to manufacture the basic plastic products. But it has moved on extensively from that. And this, for example, that's a part of a gas turbine made by Siemens. Now, Siemens, that part for the gas turbine is normally repaired. It's the burner tips, they call it, in the turbine for a 15 megawatt turbine, which is a massive amount of electricity. Now that is done on a 3D printer, which wasn't possible up to, say, 2 years ago. Now it is possible. And what Siemens have done there is they can repair the turbine now, which normally takes 44 weeks and a lot of money. They can now do it in 4 weeks. And it is moving on very, very fast, the technology, where they are literally saving millions by using this technology of 3D printing. They're looking at producing the turbine blades now using a 3D printer. Now, up to now, this technology is called additive technology because it adds the product, whether it's plastic or metal or whatever, and there's no waste. Whereas most other technologies in engineering and other areas removed material from, was it lumps of metal or stone or whatever, and you had lots of waste. Additive technology has almost zero waste. So it is a very, very powerful technology, and it is also sustainable in that regard. But Siemens are saying now if they can develop these turbine blades the way they want, they'll be able to do the design, because the design is done on the likes of computer-aided design machines. They can design the blades in such a way that they're more efficient when they're put into the turbine because of the airflow and fluid dynamics in that area, which makes it much more efficient to generate more electricity and last longer, and because of the new technology. So that's just one of the area where people were saying, well, you can buy these 3D printers and they can make plastic spoons or something like that. That was the thinking, and they have also come down in price. This is a turbine, a design of a new type of wind turbine, again, only made possible because of the manufacturing that can be done with these 3D printers. There's also another metal. It wasn't possible a few years ago just to use metal to do, but now they use what's known as sintered metal, which is powdered metal, and then it's melted with laser beams. And this is this is 3D printers now making houses, building houses. And in Southern California, they've built a house in less than 24 hours, a 2-story house with a 3D printer. Now you can imagine it's not a small machine. That's a 3D. It's on like a railway tracks, big gantry, spewing out concrete and layer upon layer, because it's all built up in layer upon layer. And so there's now an estate being built in New York with this. There's also, if you go on the web, you'll see the one in Southern California as well. And the Chinese have now developed a machine to build houses, and they can do 10 houses a day. With 10 houses a day in China, and there's a company set up manufacturing using a 3D printer to make 10, which is quite unbelievable when you think of the power of this technology. This little machine here came up with, I think it was Belgian. It's a recycling machine, because the basic raw material for most of these printers is plastic filament. Now, plastic melts at different plastics melts at different temperatures. This particular machine produces the filament, which is like a roll of cord in plastic. And what you do is you get plastic shampoo bottles. You know what to do with the waste that's in the house. You put it in the little tube there, and it granulates it and melts it down and makes it into the raw material for the 3D printer. So stuff can be really recycled almost 100%. And the temperature control can be adjusted to suit different types of plastic, so you can have different filaments. So it's quite amazing what this technology can do in relocalizing manufacture, because that is about the size of a shoebox, believe it or not. It's not, it looks like big there, but it's a very, very tiny machine and can be done. And also the whole idea of the cost of this machinery is coming down all the time. And in the workshop that's here in room 284, you can see an Irish-made machine in County Louth. It's using 3D printers using paper. It cuts out a slice of paper like a photocopier and then loads on the next page and cuts that out, maybe a smaller, and builds it up to a three-dimensional object, gluing it together and making what would be a cellulose, because paper is cellulose, material object in three-dimensional. So this is the type of possibilities that are out there now, and I think this is going to create a lot of possibility of relocalizing work and making products. For example, instead of importing parts from China or Germany or somewhere for, could be washing machines, domestic appliances, anything, cars, you'll now be able to make them. You'll now get a software package from the manufacturer, and you just press a button and it makes the part. Now that offers great opportunities for retraining people in the way that Tony has mentioned, but you can retrain people for the maintenance and repair will become a major part of local employment now. So it does offer all these opportunities to upskill people and maintain and repair. And Ford Motor Company have just issued a diktat to all of their suppliers around the world, saying that they are not going to allow parts for Ford motor cars to be made on 3D printers. And you know what that means? They will be made. And, but obviously the warranty and all that stuff is part of their agenda, and that's understandable. But it means that the possibility is there of making parts. Also, in the workshop here, you will see parts of engines that mostly in the casting and foundry areas. There was an old job, it's not, well, still a job, but it's called a pattern maker, who made a wooden pattern for making sand molds for casting. Now, that was made from wood, and usually there was some work to be done after the casting on machining or whatever for the engines to be made. Now with 3D printers, they can make the actual shape very, very accurately to make the molds and then make the castings and make the products cheaper and more accurate. So it is a revolution, and but also there's another side to this revolution. That is in the hardware end. Now, just on the software end, you've probably heard of things like Uber. I don't know. Oh yeah, this is just to let you know. This is the Guardian. I couldn't run. There's a short video clip of the 3D printer building houses in China. And if you just look it up on Google and type it in, you'll be quite amazed at what you can see. And also, this is what's happening now on the other end, that the instant pervasive access to goods and services without the burden of ownership or long-term commitment. Well, what's happening in the software end is that you can now rent, lease, or hire equipment without owning it, and you can for example, Peugeot, the French car manufacturer, have moved from being a car manufacturer to being a mobility company, because that's what we do. We make cars to get people from A to B. And now there's a company called MU Peugeot, both in Britain and in France, whereby depending on your needs on a particular day, you can come out of your house or your office and you can get a bicycle, a scooter, a car, or a van, depending on your needs. And you pay into a fund, or from your bank account, you become a member of this society, and that is, you pay for it per mile. In fact, some of these initiatives now is you're paying per kilometre, or you pay per minute. And for example, Rolls-Royce, they don't consider themselves, well, they are aircraft and the jet engine manufacturers, but they don't sell jet engine manufacturers. They sell hours of flying time. That's what they do now. And they take back the engines and repair them and maintain them. So that's the way things are moving. They're moving to a more leasing and renting type arrangements, whereby we have the capacity to use our resources, have greater resource efficiency. Now, and that means, for example, most people that have a car, it's most of the time it's lying idle outside your house or your office or wherever you're working, and it's just sitting there. But what the software and the likes of these companies like Uber and that are now developing is it's making the high capital equipment like that more resource efficient by making it available all of the time. So you can, and there is one company here in Dublin, Go Cars, that does that. It's a little bit expensive at the moment, but in Europe it's becoming a lot cheaper, where you can, even in Brussels now, you can hop off the train or a plane and you can have what they call the final mile. You can hop into a little electric car for, I think, €7 per hour for a two-seater car, an electric car, and run about town. That is becoming very popular now in Europe, and Deutsche Bahn are doing the same in Germany. So you're now looking at not owning. You're now looking at leasing, renting, and costing less, because to run the average small car in Ireland, according to the AA, is about €8,000 a year. When you count maintenance and depreciation and tax and insurance, as well as the fuel, it's €8,000 a year is a lot of money. So for a device that's not used all of the time. So this is the way the trends are moving, and this is just, they call it this is the effects it will have on consumers. You'll have new levels of convenience, value, and service to consumers. It'll displace some industries, and this is a challenge to the trade unions, because some of this is going to displace existing work. For example, Airbnb, where you can rent out your couch or you can become a member, is definitely going to affect the hotel industry. So these technologies will have an effect, but it will have just to finish up the employment. You'll have more enterprise, and also the markets expanding existing underlying markets, and it will do away with middlemen of all types and descriptions, as you know, I mean, which the internet has already done with things like travel agents have gone down, because people can now book hotels and flights online. And then the cultural and social impact is going to be major. It'll change the whole landscape of how we live today. And that is the website for MU Peugeot. You want to look up .co.uk. So this is going to have a major effect, and Roland Stelzer will talk about a bit more in detail later on, and you'll see the actual work, and you're welcome to come down, those that want to have a look at the workshop here in DIT in Bolton Street. Thank you very much.